local search and exploration app. I'm going to show you how the app is built. Right now I have it set up using my Exploration iPhone 6 simulator. This works with 5.1 up to 6.1. I've tested it with all of these. So we'll go ahead and run this. See the startup screen. Now within this app, I've built out a few different pages that are fully functional and working, and I didn't want to load this with needless code and make it convoluted, so I didn't build out things like a registration page. I built out a controller for this, so you can easily go in and duplicate my code from a login. This is interfacing with a web server and communicating to authenticate the user. So it'd be really easy to just grab these form fields, drop it in registration, and go to a different endpoint on your web server to be able to register a user. So with this, we'll go ahead and log in. My keyboard kind of covers the fields for right now. It is a scroll view, so all we'd have to do is set the scroll view content height, and this would automatically, we can have the keyboard automatically scroll the view up. That's something I didn't want to convolute the code and make it overly complicated, but it's pretty easy to do. So we can log in with admin@nasidade.com with a password, and I just left this plain text so you could see it. We'll go ahead and submit that. That's communicating with a REST kit. So you can see in my console here that initiated REST kit, an HTTP request operation. It went and talked to the Nasi demo server, hit a endpoint that validates the profile, and if it returned true, then it logs us in. If we wanted to bypass that, we can go into our login view controller under Exploration, Controllers, Auth Window Group, Login View Controller here. And down here on, let's close this, down here in line 127, this is the method that actually calls do login. So this has to pass for do login to be initialized right now, but all we'd have to do is put it outside of our REST kit operation, comment this out, and now this would work just as is. It wouldn't validate against anything, and it would just log in the user. So you could tie this into a local database on the phone using Core Data, or you could tie this, if you wanted to ditch REST kit, you could just use AF Network directly or something else. It's up to you. So go ahead and uncomment that, put that back. So here we have a search page, and this is our default tab. This is using a custom tab view controller so that you can use custom icons and image layers, and it basically activates an image for each layer, and it has a normal and active state. So as we click through these pages are all functioning. These ones are kind of placeholders to let you build in whatever you want. I envision this being some kind of maybe a favorites or a list view, and then maybe some setting pages. I built this with a nib file so that you can see how designs are created and nibs are used with nibs. So if we go under views, nibs, settings view, you can see all of these components are just dragged and dropped on here, and you could tie them into your controller. And then when you look at things like the place view, you can see once again that these are using some basic layouts, and then these are actually being populated from REST-Kit. So they're more or less placeholders that you can position around and then populate. You can see that same with some of these other things, profile. Login view, you see that this is programmatically creating the form fields. So the only things that are dropped in onto the nib are the label and the image. So you get to kind of see examples of the best of both worlds. Under the login view controller and back to the application, actually we'll go into the search. We can do a search for anything. We can do a search for pizza, because I know that that's in our system. And we could trigger the map view by clicking the pin, or we can click into our result. This goes and fetches the place data. It's hitting some demo data we have for Denver. So not fully populated, no image, no about text set. Social might be set, might not be set. Those just open up web views. So you can see here we have some web view, and clearly this isn't the same place, but just a demo. Has sharing options, so we can go ahead and share that. We can go back. You can see the map view down here. And so all of these components are in here and working, and they just need to be populated with real data. For the purpose of getting started, I wanted you to have a demo URL that would work, and you could pull some data back. So when you go into the application, for example, if we're looking at the list view, you would go under Models, RESTKit, and then there's different RESTKit models here. You'll have to go through RESTKit and learn it a little bit. So this is like what it's doing for the authentication. It's instantiating a API singleton, and then it's going connecting to authenticate. And same with, I dropped in RESTKit has a default Twitter model. This will map to core data. Core data, if you're not familiar with it, I can just show you real quick. It's essentially an ORM layer that maps to your database. So when you define a model, in this case IFUser, you define its relationships and its fields and everything else, and then you just need a model that represents that core data for RESTKit to be able to map automatically to it. And RESTKit will take care of everything from your HTTP request all the way down to mapping the data into the database. So it's kind of an all-in-one package solution to interact with a web server and save data. So this is an example of programmatically generated form fields. So this is our authentication or login form, all generated programmatically. This is the method that I prefer personally. Nibs can kind of get buggy, and it's hard to see the different layers sometimes, and it just kind of gets clunky. So I'm kind of an old school developer. I just like having things nice and clean in code, and being able to just organize it that way and comment it that way. So with that, these are your other main view controllers. So you can see our different list view controllers here. This is kind of an empty page, as I described before. The profile view controller correlates to the profile view here. The search controller is obviously powering the search. There's your map view, your place view, and your actual search. Inside of here, you can see that, once again, I'm generating the form fields programmatically and dropping a table view, and I'm populating that table view with data. Table views are kind of split up into a couple different components. You have to define a cell for that table, and then you have to populate that cell with data. So it's usually best to run it through some kind of a function or loop that will populate that data. And that's the basics. Here, once again, you can see when I actually go and do the search and get results, I authenticate the user, once again, just to make sure that they are a valid user. I'm querying my endpoint, which is /model/place, and then an ID for the user ID. So this is pulling up a single view. And then it's going and getting all the data, which just uses this format for requesting the data and mapping it into individual items. So that is it. I will do a better video and some more documentation down the road. Right now I have documentation that is included in the file. Basically goes through some of the basics, gives some screenshots and examples, describes some of the things that I've already described with some more detail. And this is my first app and first iteration of this app. Expect more. There will be lots of updates. I would expect updates at least monthly, if not weekly. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the app. Feel free to contact me with any questions at ThinkClay on Twitter or thinkclay@gmail.com. Thanks.